Quack.
Quack. Quack. 12 in. Ow! I am your host, Adam Jamail.
And I'm Aaron Scooby-Doo.
That is right, and this is the Quack 12 podcast, the most official, unofficial Oregon Ducks sporting podcast on the web footosphere. And Aaron,
Yeah.
I hope you have a lot of hate in your heart because we play the Washington Huskies this Saturday, and I'm horrified. It'll be game day, too, by the way. Game day is coming to Seattle, Washington. The eyes of the nation will be watching this game, this most storied rivalry in what I will say is probably the most anticipated, most hyped, maybe most important Oregon-Washington game in the history of its series. What do you think of this, Aaron?
Well, it might be the most important, but I would need to know a bit more about the history of the game because they have the Apple Cup.
Mm-hmm.
We have the Classic Platy, which are both also going away.
Yes, unfortunately,
But
yes.
are we not going to continue to play the Huskies because we're going with them?
We will. We will go to the Big Ten with
So,
them.
to date, maybe this is the most important. I can't say what's going to happen in the future. I mean,
Very
I can,
true.
but I won't.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Well, I'll tell you this. As far as AP poll is concerned, which, you know, they've been ranking since, like, 1936. I believe
is that
it was,
the
like,
Associated Press, Adam?
That is exactly correct. They've been doing this bad boy since 36. You know, back then it was, like, top 10. Then there was top 15. I think in the 80s, early 80s, it expanded to 25. But if we're looking at the AP poll, there hasn't been many games in which Oregon and Washington have both been ranked and then played each other while they're both ranked. And certainly there has never been one in which both teams have been ranked top 10 like they are right now. And undefeated is also a very rare instance. I'm not even sure if it's happened before. It probably has because we played early in the season, but yeah.
Here's the thing.
What is the thing, Aaron?
The thing is that someone's going to have to lose this game. And we're both undefeated.
Yes, and it's going to crush the other fan base's soul when they lose.
Yeah, whoever loses, it's going to suck more. And the worst part is, in my preseason prediction, I said 11-1 because there was going to be a quirky one in there. And by jolly, I don't think this is a quirky game by any means.
Well,
like losing to ASU is the game we would lose.
Oh God,
you know what I mean? Like a weird one.
Yeah. Oh, a weird one. That could be one. I mean, obviously Oregon State. That would be epic.
So I feel good that we're going to take this thing home.
Okay.
I will say, and I'm sure Hythloday will be able to back me up on this when he comes on. Is he coming on? Yeah, he is.
Yes, he is. In fact, I want to debut a new segment. I was thinking about this. For the people who are like, when the hell is Hythloday going to get on this podcast?
Yes.
Look, if you are on YouTube, right now, we have a timestamp of Hyth Watch. That'll be the exact time Hythloday's about to jump on, so look at your screen now. Otherwise, I'll add my voice and post right now to tell you where to skip ahead to.
Yes.
I'll do a really clean one right now.
They're like
43-11.
All right, so it's in there.
Yeah. For everybody that stuck around, thank you for choosing me over Hythloday.
Exactly. Everyone else, all those people that skipped ahead, those are idiots. Those are not real fans.
Those people who skip ahead are morons. They're just Hythloday's family.
Let's be
who
real.
are apparently all in government somehow.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
So, you know, we have the secret society on our side here as the Oregon Ducks team.
True quackies.
Yeah. We're going to win. I'm not scared.
Well, let me say this, Aaron.
Wait, what was I going to...
Who knows?
Oh, yeah. This was all I was going to say, is that I feel like this is going to be the game. It's two teams that have penalty things going all the time, so it'll just be a game of mistakes.
We've been pretty
It
good.
might be boring.
We've
It
been
might
pretty
be
good
the
in penalties
most boring
lately.
game ever.
Yeah. Either way, the
Have we
stakes
been
are
good?
so
We're
high.
not good at it. We get like 6 or 7.
We may be averaging that, but last couple of games, like against Stanford, I think we had like 2, my man. We're doing better.
Yeah, but that's Stanford, you know? That's a team that we're confident against.
Well, I'll say our game against Texas Tech on the road, that is the one thing really holding me up. Now, that was early in the season, obviously. But we looked like pretty flawed. We did have a ton of penalties, like you're saying.
Yeah.
And it was because of the ferocious road environment. And this road environment is going to be crazy hectic, you know. They're not selling out as much as you would hope for a fan base, you know, that's like this hyped and for a team that's this good and for a rivalry this, you know, full of hate. But it's going to be a crazy loud environment in Seattle, college game day as well. And so that could invite, you know, suddenly we're playing like the offense isn't as sure as possible. Like maybe Bo Nix is not connecting on some deep shots. Against Stanford, you know, our first 2 drives were 3 and outs. If that were to happen in Washington, and if Michael Penix Jr., if they were able to draw some stuff over the bye week, we had a bye week, they had a bye week, they could be attacking us like couple quick scores, suddenly we're down, you know, we're behind like 14-0 or something.
No,
like,
it's all very real.
Yeah, anything can happen. Talking about this, well, first of all, let's plug everything else before we get into a few crazy games that have happened in the past year. I just highlighted a few nuts rivalry games between Oregon and Washington. But before we get to that, let's plug this damn show. If you want to help us out, go over to Quack12podcast.com. There you will find links to the Patreon for $5 measly a month. You can get our whole history series, Quack in Time. We're up to the 60s, I believe, right now, which we'll talk about some games older than, you know, because we got in a time machine and actually saw some of these games. So we can break it down for you there on the Patreon. But also we got some fun interviews. We got some, you know, goofball episodes there. Duck D&D.
Yeah, baby.
Sounds just as nerdy / cool as you think it would be. That's for $5 measly. Speaking of 5, you can also give us 5 stars over on Apple Podcasts.
Yeah.
The Quack 12 page. Leave a comment. Helps people find this wonderful, wonderful podcast. And if you want to see our beautiful faces and our weird settings, go over to the YouTube page, Quack 12 YouTube. Give us a subscribe. Smash that subscribe button, as they say. And we even have a TikTok. It's wonderful. Give them all your information.
I'll be spending my day listening to music, so records and such, so I'll just be adding more to the schedule for TikTok releases.
There you go. Now that we've shamelessly plugged this show that they're already listening to, Aaron, this rivalry, I mean, it all started way back in the day.
Would you say it's storied, Adam?
I would say it's storied. In fact, I've said storied already. So I'll double down that this is a storied rivalry. I do like that word. It is a fun one.
Yeah.
The series opened in 1900. Surprisingly, I wouldn't think this, you know, considering like the state of Eugene in the year 1900 and the state of Seattle in 1900. Both are pretty podunk, but obviously one is still a major Northwest city and one is like a hick town at this point. Oregon dominated in that first game, 43-0 to kick it off.
Well, yeah.
Already
first off,
what do you got
sorry.
to say? Yeah,
I don't know that was Seattle. I don't know that Seattle was a city at that point. It was just a logging community town with farmland everywhere, right?
So you would say it's a town as opposed to a city, is what you're coming to.
I would say it's a town.
Well, in comparison to
Sure.
Eugene, it's a city,
and
I would say.
The thing I don't want to gloss over here is the fact that at this point, The only way between the two is on like Highway 99 or what we call Highway 99.
Yeah, what
Which
would a
took-
highway be at that? It would
right.
not exist.
It took
yeah.
a whole
a road,
day.
a dirt road.
It was a road trip,
It probably
which
took
is just
multiple
crazy
days.
to think about.
I'm sure it took multiple days in 1900 to get from Seattle to Eugene.
God.
It had to, and it was probably fucking terrible. Probably literally dirt roads for all I know.
Probably.
We do history, but not that much history, clearly. But so then there was many games where we're going against them. I mean, obviously they got Gabey, who just was destroying us left and right in the early 20th century. He looks horrifying as well.
Well,
so, you know.
that's because it's because they're cheating.
Yeah, every time they've ever beaten us has been because they're cheating.
Fuck.
And in fact, one game I wanted to point out really quick was in 1962. If you really want to speak about cheating, there's a really weird game where, I mean, technically it was a 21-21 tie. And Washington had a really good season in 1962. Us, not so much. But we would have beaten them, and it would have been one of their few blemishes of that season, except for, as we were going for the game-winning score, what would have been the game-winning score, multiple Husky fans, actually, straight up tackled our man, who was going for the touchdown. Like, it's in the air, flying towards him, Larry Hill is going for it, and then suddenly, as the newspapers say, like, he's not only going against two Huskies, he's going against a bunch of Husky fans because they're already crowding the end zone, like just outside of the end zone.
Right.
And he's bobbling the catch, but like possibly could have caught it, but they just like basically bat that shit out of his hands from what I've found. I wish there was more. I found a couple different newspapers that talked about it. There wasn't as angry of Oregon fans as I would find. Like Eugene Register just kind of put it as like, oh, and let's just say the Husky fans helped him out. And like,
wow.
So that's certainly a bullshit one. The one that I think, or this isn't even a game per se, but in 1948, there was a really big moment that I think solidified Oregon's hatred for Washington. Like where they really felt like if there were some kind of, kinship, both being, Northwest teams.
Right.
That this would have been the time for Washington to kind of back Oregon, but instead they stabbed him in the back. And that is, so Oregon in 1948 had a great season. They were looking to go to the Rose Bowl. And at this point, that was due to, like, you kind of had to be voted in by your fellow teammates or your fellow teams. Like the conference voted you in. This is the Pacific Coast Conference at this time.
PCC, baby.
That's right. Which at this point includes Montana. Montana's in there.
Right.
Now, California, who we didn't play, also had a good season. John McKay was our coach at the time, I believe. Norman Van Brocklin was our quarterback. And we were wanting to obviously be in the Rose Bowl. Everyone was expecting, okay, the California teams, they'll be voting for Cal. The Northwest teams, those are the ones that got to vote for Oregon, and we should be able to get in at that point. Instead, Washington not only votes against us, but convinces Montana to also not vote against us, or to vote against us. And so we don't go to the Rose Bowl. We don't go to the freaking Rose Bowl. Cal instead goes to the Rose Bowl. They lose to Northwestern on, I believe they called it like the phantom touchdown, because Northwestern scores the touchdown, the game-winning score, but there's even a picture that solidified, because Cal was being like, no, they fumbled the ball before he crossed the end zone. And there's a picture where that shows that he's fumbling the ball before the end zone. But they're like, nope, we already called it. Northwestern wins. So they lost that Rose Bowl anyways. We desperately wanted to go to that Rose Bowl. We don't get to go. We hold that grudge on them forever, honestly. Like, it never ends. Just like that 1960s, those freaking fans, that stays in our memory as well. Now, as far as AP ranked games, I wanted to cover a lot of these because there are 8 of them, I do believe, in total. And that is, which we have won almost all of them. 6 of 8 we've won when both teams are ranked in the top 25. Because we got, in 1990 was the first one. We lost that one, unfortunately, 38-17. Washington was 17, Oregon was 19. But then in 1995 was a huge one. That is, of course, a year after the pick. The pick, Kenny Wheaton's pick, in which he picked up, he returned it 97 yards, even though he didn't really have to. For the win, and then that got us to our first Pac-10 championship. It really began the 12 straight wins of just kicking their ass. It meant it was the beginning of the transition into the Mike Bellotti era and what Oregon is. It just so happens that 94 game solidifies basically where the Ducks are now, and it gets of course, this guy right here, old Phil Knight bobblehead. Phil Knight decides to just give us a shit ton of money.
He's the money goat, baby.
Money goat, if you will. But 95, we do win that game. That is a top 25 game. We beat number 15 Washington. In 2000, Joey Harrington, we just sit on the ball, which used to be Washington's way of winning, really. We win that one. And then actually in 2001, we don't even play just because for some reason they decided that we're rescheduling everything. Oregon and Washington won't play this season. They fortunately rewrited that because it's why wouldn't we? We got to play every single year. We play every year except for 2020 and in the World War II era or something like that.
Wow.
So we missing that one. But then all the other AP top 25 matchups, those happened during the Oregon dominating stretch. A lot of Marcus Mariota years and such. In 2012, we win 52-21. 2013, 45-24. There's, of course, the 2018 game, which was really great because that got another legendary game, unfortunately. 2017 is when they hung 70 points on us. It was Justin Herbert's first game as a starter. It's, of course, called The Points because Jake Browning, as he was running into the end zone, points at us, and it's humiliating. But the very next year, there was that, of course, the Peyton Henry missed field goal. It's Mario Cristobal's first season, I do believe, as head coach. And he gets us the overtime win. C.J. Verdell erupting through the offensive line to get that short score for the win.
Was the 2017 game, is that the one we went to?
No, that one, my friend, if I'm remembering correctly, that was 2000. Oh, yeah, 2017. You're right.
Yeah.
2017 was the one we went to. 2016 is that terrible, no-good game, Justin Herbert. 2017, we went to 35-3. I'm guessing. Off the top of my head, that was a brutal one. Braxton Burmeister led that. We weren't top 25. They were, deservingly so, unfortunately. But the only other top 25 matchups, 2019, we beat them 35-31 in a nail biter. Jacob Eason led that team, I believe.
Right.
And then, of course, that brings us to last year's game, 2022, in which Washington, behind Michael Penix Jr., escapes Eugene with a win after Bo Nix gets injured and plays kind of gimpy. And we even had an opportunity to, roar back. But a really gimpy pass goes up in the air, and it falls short. So not many top 25 matchups even. 0 in which we're both top 10. there's plenty of other legendary games, obviously. Like, for example, in the biggest, even though they scored 70 points on us in 2016, there was 2 seasons. It's pretty funny. In 1973, we beat them 58-0, which is bonkers. That's the most lopsided win in our history against them. The very next season, 1974 in Seattle, they beat us 66-0. So they just reversed it. And that is in large part like they wanted to ramp up the score because what we did to them last year, the previous year.
Well, sure, you want a tit for tat, which is a problem with the human race.
Yeah.
But you know what you made me realize while you were going through most of those?
What's that?
The ones in which we've been doing the podcast, I don't remember them really at all. I don't remember a single game against the Huskies. Except for the one we went to. That's the only one I can be like, this game I do remember because we were sitting there in the shit of it.
Including the last year's heartbreaking loss in which I was at. You have no memory of that.
Not really.
Oh, my man.
I mean, you said Bo Nix got hurt, and I went, oh, yeah, that's right. Bo Nix was our quarterback.
This is the part where we have to mention that Aaron, even though he's been a fan since, as we've said, the Willie Taggart era, if you can call it that.
Turnhill Will.
As far as, retention, paying attention, really any form of duck knowledge or even college football knowledge, that is just kind of flowing through him like water through the Great Willamette River,
Right.
Don't expect Aaron to really retain any of this, but in the heat of the moment, he is there.
If you decided to not click forward to the Hythloday part and now you're wishing you had,
yeah,
my bad.
Yeah.
But also, hey, I'm glad you're here still.
He's coming up soon. There's that at least.
Yeah, he's coming up soon. Just hang on.
Just hang on a
Give
little
me
bit
6
longer.
more minutes.
Just a little bit longer.
Yeah.
So obviously, Washington has, unfortunately, dominated this rivalry, I would say. I'm pulling up the Wikipedia right now. Wikipedia is a great site. Aaron, you would probably like this. So
I think I have heard of it before, checked it out once or twice.
Yeah, it's fun. It's reliable. It's good. So Oregon, Washington, it also compares them like as programs, as in like national championships, all-time record, conference championship, bowl games, wins all time, bowl record, consensus All-Americans, NFL draft picks, first-round NFL draft picks, weeks in AP poll, weeks at AP number 1. All of those categories that I just listed, Washington dominates us.
Wow.
They are better in every single one of those those things I just listed. The one thing we have over them, the one thing is Heisman winners. We have one Heisman winner, Marcus Mariota. They, surprisingly, have 0. I am a bit surprised by that.
That doesn't mean a whole lot either, I feel like, though.
I mean,
the other ones feel pretty important.
I'd rather have a national championship than a Heisman, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah. Also, well, okay, here's another question for Aaron who doesn't pay attention. Mm-hmm. I don't know what our ranks are. Have you brought that up already?
Right now, we are number 8. They are number 7.
Right. Okay. So it's only really it stayed the same basically.
Basically, yeah. I think we both went up 1. I think we should have gone more, but whatever. And whoever wins this is likely going to be at
top
least
5.
Top 5. Top 5 seems safe. That they wouldn't do the Pac-12 that dirty. It's clear like one of these teams is the top of the conference. But we'll figure out who. Now, overall, the record stand and keep this in mind. We're not too far off from coming off of 12 straight wins against Washington. All right, 12 straight wins. Washington currently has a 60. They've won 61 times. We've won 48 times, and there have been 5 ties. So they still have a 13 game advantage over us. They have dominated.
Okay, so I have to ask.
Mm-hmm.
You could say that they took the first cycle, right, where they pretty much just dominated us through the 1900s for that first 20-something years or whatever.
More, honestly, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Like, they didn't
So,
yeah.
once, I guess really, my confidence level will be living inside of the question, where are we at in our dominance cycle over them, right?
Well, I'll tell you this. Like I was saying, we had those 12 straight wins.
Right.
And then even, the times where it was supposed to be good matchups, thank goodness to our Heisman winner, Marcus Mariota. But like 2012, 2013, we kicked some butt. Like, it wasn't even close. 52-21, 45-24. But then there was obviously, like, that's why the point, the Jake Browning absolute beatdown in 2016, which was our huge fall from grace.
Sure.
Obviously. Like, we were this nationally relevant, not too far off from even competing in the national championship, just plummeting after that 2015 season, which I love big play VA, Vernon Adams Jr., and he got us that win. I remember he was injured for much of the season because his old team, Eastern Washington, broke his finger. And we were, it looked like we were going to lose that game because our backup quarterback wasn't it, as we found out in the Alamo Bowl. But Vernon Adams Jr. was able to heal up, come back for the Washington game, and it was a close one, but beat them. That was our final win out of that 12-win streak. And then 2016, that's kind of why they ran up the score, too. Is like they were so sick and tired of losing to us. Chris Peterson really had that team humming. That was the season that they went to the playoffs, because Oregon and Washington are the only teams to make it to the playoffs of the Pac-12. And it felt like a passing of the torch for a second there. Then there's the game we were at, 2017, which was still a beatdown. And that 2018 game, it felt like Cristobal had us there. I mean, we really, it was close, and it took a missed field goal,
right,
for us to get there. But we won, and then we lost in embarrassing freaking fashion to Washington State not too much later. And then Arizona even. But that was Cristobal things. But we got back on track after that. Because like 2019, 2020 was canceled due to COVID.
Which means we win.
We win. Yeah, we win that one. And then, but yeah. So, I mean, there was some less fun.
So, yeah, that's what I'm saying.
We're back.
Sure, they've won a couple over the last long period of time.
Yeah.
So how many more years of total satisfaction do we get before it switches back over and they start being the dominating power?
Well, that's the question, man. I think
we're going to win this season because of that, or this game because of that.
I don't think they'll ever really be like a 12 game. I mean, who's to say? I don't think either team's going to win 12 or, because they had a stretch too where I think they won like 14 out of 15 or something.
Well, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So,
they were dominant too.
You can, over a span of 20 years, you can lose 3 or 4 of those games.
I mean, you can, sure.
And so right now, we've lost 2. So I'm just trying to say, to figure out where we are in the cycle.
I'll tell you this, Aaron, it's a new era. It really is. I mean, first of all, we're going to a fucking new conference. This is crazy. Mm-hmm. We've always been in a Pacific conference, whatever it was called. It was always based around the Pacific. Now we're in the freaking middle of the country. We're in Cornsville. So it really feels like, as far as the Oregon-Washington, well, not only that, but it's very rare, as we've been pointing out here, that both teams are nationally relevant. Both teams are actually good, like on the same playing field. Like right now, Oregon is actually recruiting better than them still. But both teams are recruiting very well. Both teams have very good coaches, very good coaching staffs. Money is being put in, is in both programs, comparably so. Like, we're on equal footing, and that hasn't and that footing happens to be like top tier college football, and that's a new era. That's a new era for this rivalry, which doesn't even really have a name.
It's just
I like
so
the Cascade Clash. I heard that. Yeah.
When you break it all down, it just really sparks my conspiracy brain into, well, we're about to head into a new market, so now, you know what I mean? It's like they're putting a little spit shine on baby boys before they get thrown into the den of wolves, kind of a deal.
Yeah. Well, especially this is going to replace really the Blatty, the Oregon versus Oregon State game, just like the Apple Cup, Washington versus Washington State. It's possible that those games will exist on an annual basis, but honestly, it's unlikely. It's honestly unlikely.
Do it in practice.
And so it's gonna, and so it's gonna be Oregon Washington in rivalry week. When Ohio State and Michigan are playing stuff,
this is when those games happen. When we are continually denied getting to go to the national championship, regardless of how good we do. When they continuously ignore us.
Okay.
There's that thing in basketball where it's like rather than going to the thing, you go to the shitty thing. And you try to be the best of the shitty?
I'm not quite sure. Oh, when you're relegated in soccer? Is that what you're talking about?
No, basketball. The thing, when it goes to the playoffs or whatever, and then it's like, y'all aren't even good enough to go to the playoffs.
Oh,
so
you're talking about
your own little baby playoffs.
The NIT?
Yeah.
Okay.
So whenever we don't get to play the thing because the man keeps us out, we'll just have our own little four team little does that make sense? Like we'll play Oregon State, they'll play Washington State, and then the winner of those two get to go play each other. We'll do our own little thing.
Get the idea of playing Oregon State out of your head because that's dead now. Like
we're doing it post-season when everybody's like, "Oh, it's the playoffs. We're so excited." We'll be like, "Yeah, we're supposed to be there, but they snubbed us again."
I mean, I like that idea.
So we're just going to have our own little thing.
Or just like a June game against Oregon State.
Yeah, we'll have the Eugene High School come film it and air it on public access.
I watch that sometimes on Friday. I watch some high school games. I'm that much of a sicko. But Aaron, that's basically it. That's a lot of the big high points of the rivalry. There's a whole lot of Washington just dominating us, especially in the Don James era. Though in 1980 we did get a good we ruined their season a little bit, but then they had a great season at the end. So it's been mainly Washington beating us. There's that one great stretch which happens to coincide with Washington in a rare downslide while Oregon is in its highest uptick in its entire history. Those two things happen to combine. Other than that, this is new territory, man. And this Saturday is going to determine a whole lot. Because this is the hardest game. Utah, in Salt Lake City, that is a tough one. But they are not what we thought they were going into the season, especially with their injuries. But just in general. USC... Also, it's just their defense is so freaking bad, and they're playing in Eugene. So, on the road in Seattle, this is the toughest game. This needs to get all of our attention. Both teams, like we said, had bye weeks, so they're like full focus on each other. College game day will be there, so the whole nation's watching it.
Wow.
You
remember that time when you got to be famous on game day?
Oh, yeah. Well, now you
that's
go
the
there.
stuff I remember. I don't remember the games for shit, but all the little things surrounding them, that's the stuff I'll remember.
What can I say? Well, luckily you'll be there at, from 9 p.m. to 6 in the morning the next day holding the Quack 12 sign.
Yep.
So represent us there. Everyone keep your eye out.
Yeah, I'm going to have to look up where they gather up for game day so I can go over there,
Montlake.
actually. Huh?
The campus. UW campus.
But like by the stadiums, in the quad, in the red square.
I think the quad, because they need enough space, Last time they were in Seattle for game day, too. We won that game, too. So maybe that's a good sign. Who knows?
That's a great sign.
Also, a little extra spicy juju here. Game day, for some reason, specifically Pat McAfee, one of their more loud, annoying hosts, he's been talking a ton of shit on Wazoo and the fact that they do their flag, Old Crimson, at every single college game day. No matter where it is in the country. Oh,
yeah. I feel like some big company took those people as a commercial.
Anyway. I'm sure. But he's been talking crap about them. So there's a lot of rumors that a bunch of Washington State fans are coming to this game just to, shit all over them. And so there's going to be hopefully some Wazoo fans joining in on the hate for us. That's what I'm hoping.
For us?
Yeah, well, against the Huskies, therefore for us. That's what I hope. Who knows? Like your enemy, the enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Right.
Speaking of which, Aaron, actually not speaking of which, I was just trying to force a transition here. We got a commercial. Let's get to that commercial break, shall we?
All right, let's do it. And then we'll be right back with Hythloday.
With Hythloday. Quack, quack. Well, Aaron, hate to say it, but the time machine is broken.
I mean, this whole thing was running off the power of your cell phone. And obviously, when we hit 1894, there's no longer cell service or Wi-Fi connection, so...
Not gonna lie, I did not think this through.
God almighty, Adam, what are we supposed to do now?
I mean, we're in Eugene, Oregon in 1894. We could check out the very first Duck game. Maybe it's a good thing.
No, it's not good. Look, we've already been here for about 5 days, and the very first thing I learned living in Eugene, Oregon, is that shows have been banned that are quote-unquote unchaste and demoralizing. And that's kind of the only kind of content we know how to make, dude.
We could review every Duck season as it happens.
Even the children here are freaky.
Then post it on the Quack 12 Patreon in the future.
I mean, it's just really hard to not spoil, tragic national events.
Imagine it, a weekly show dedicated to Oregon football history with two charismatic time-traveling stoner hosts.
We live in the most expensive house in Eugene, and it's a fucking shack.
And the most beautiful thing about it? We can charge them a measly $5 in the future. And when we get it in the past, we'll be freaking millionaires comparatively. And I'm talking robber baron status, baby.
Adam, I make bugs fight in a shoebox just to simulate television.
All listeners would have to do is go to patreon.com/quack12 and sign up for hundreds of hours of Duck entertainment.
But the hooch is good. In fact, it's kind of got me wanting to try my own hand at it.
That's right. For a measly $5 a month, that's patreon.com/quack12. Now let's go watch them lemon yellows give those hay seeds what for.
And keep your eye out for Dr. Schroeder's blueberry wine.
And we're back on Quack.
Quack, 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 quack.
Aaron, there's a lot of hate in our heart, but in order
Not mine,
for
baby.
us, well, that's...
But I get why you say it. I understand the sentiment, but I don't like the word.
Then I raised you wrong, because you should have hate for these people.
Yes, that's so funny. Bad dad.
Absolutely. By the way, one thing I don't like? AI is officially getting into every single aspect of our life, including our hate week. Because lately on Twitter, on X, yes, it's a terrible website, but I'm still on it, @Quack12 Podcast. lately, instead of all these, fun little, people would do fun little clip arts, little weird videos, GIFs, maybe just send some good old-fashioned hate words to people. The latest trend has been AI art to, puddles peeing on a husky, and then they just post that, or huskies tearing apart a duck, and then posting that, and I'm just like, it's just lazy as hell.
Well,
it looks weird.
No, it's not.
I don't like it.
What you are upset about is the fact that you're talking about a technology in its infancy, so you're going to get output that looks like a baby could make it.
I'm not going to like it.
Because the problem is, we're not, as a civilization, we're not prompt savvy yet. As we integrate AI into governmental systems and the average university goer stops learning to code and learns how to prompt, then you're going to be like, AI is the coolest thing ever because now I know how to prompt it, and I just made my own movie that's better than anything Scorsese has ever done.
This sounds terrible. This sounds exactly the reason why I hate it and fear it. But
hey, old man, all I'm trying to say is move out of the way, all right?
Yeah. That sounds then we don't even have to play the football games. We can just let the algorithm tell us who won.
Are you telling me you would prefer to have 400, 500 corrupted human individuals deciding the fate of billions of people over a computer that can look through time and say,
who watches the computer? That's what I'm saying.
The prompters.
Aaron.
Look, I need to show you my sci-fi novel called The Prompters. It'll make everything clear.
I'm sure. Yeah, and then join your weird religion. We're going to get on a boat and go out into
Mars,
the uncharted waters or whatever. Yeah, Mars. Aaron, the way I prefer my information to come to me is to have one person out there, anonymously looking through every single stat, every single play,
using Excel spreadsheets,
using many Excel spreadsheets, painstakingly going through all of these games, opponents, and then putting them together, maybe in an article that you can find on Addicted to Quack, which is, of course, managed, edited, ran by our wonderful guest, Hythloday. Hythloday1. You can find him on Twitter. How you doing, Addicted to Quack? I almost called you. Hythloday, how's it going, buddy?
I'm well. How are you?
I want to win this game so badly. Are you nervous, Hythloday? Are you nervous for the game? I know you find comfort in stats and in actually watching this footage, but do you get the same gut wrenching that all of us other Duck fans do?
No.
Oh, that's
why I do
nice.
this.
When you see the inevitability of, we will probably lose this game by about 10 points.
No.
Does your heart break? Or are you like, well, at least I feel calm in the resolute knowledge of this fact?
I mean, look, college football is played by 19-year-olds with a funny shaped ball. Crazy stuff can happen, especially when you go on the road in sort of raucous, wacky environments. The point of doing film study and the way that I approach these things is sort of understanding fundamental strength on fundamental strength to predict and understand how should the game proceed, how ought the game be played, what's the baseline, and sort of understanding what does the game look like if they played the game 100 times, what would it look like 90 times out of the 100 times, and then understanding that maybe you just so that if the game goes sideways because of some special teams craziness, or the ball bounces some funny way, or the opponent just gets away with some, super lucky play or something like that.
Because you decided to run CJ Verdell instead of kneeing it to run out some clock.
Right.
We'll talk about that later. Don't worry.
You can just appreciate that, I just live in one of the many strands of the multiverse in which a crazy thing happened, and it's like, rather than feeling like the weight of the universe is upon you, you're just like, oh, a crazy thing happened. Okay, well, crazy things happen.
So Hythloday's our Doctor Strange. That's actually the title we should have been giving him this whole time.
Oh, sure.
He's because he's looking at all these multiverses and he's seeing it. Like when we beat Ohio State, that was him pulling up the one signal to be like, this is the one universe in which we beat Ohio State.
It's more like Dune. It's more like the opening of Dune, where, in the litany against fear, in which he says, I will let it pass over me and through me, and I will turn the mind's eye and look backward, at it. It's
so you are a god emperor, is what you're saying?
It's more like when you let it pass and view it in hindsight, it seems small and ridiculous, and when it's coming at you, the way that you're viewing it now, such three-dimensional beings are you. When you're viewing it now as this game that's coming up on you, right? It seems this monstrous onrushing force, a Hadouken.
This game has already happened, Adam.
That's what I'm trying to say, Aaron.
Right.
You're saying it with a joke in your voice, but what I'm saying is that this game has already happened.
Right.
Right? It has, the universe is a four-dimensional space. The game has already happened, right? And it's merely a question of on which quantum, timeline does the probability collapse to, but it's already happened,
Well,
so who wins?
Yeah, who wins?
Well, I'm not
need to
sure
know.
which, timeline it's collapsed to, but the probabilities, are already there in film study, and they're finite, so...
Let's talk about, the saddest timeline would be us getting blown out, which I don't think there's a timeline
unlikely.
where we're held to 0 points. I truly don't think that.
That would require Washington playing much better defense than they've played in more than a decade.
Exactly. But
Man, that's the worst thing you can think of happening? I've got so many worse timelines.
Well, in which the game is completed and one wins and one loses and stuff like that. Obviously, injuries is always a huge thing. We don't really need to bring that. But so worst timeline.
There are many definitions of worst. I think maybe Adam and Aaron may be using different definitions.
A really bad
humiliating
timeline that is somewhat realistic. That isn't like Cthulhu comes from the 50-yard line.
Oh my God, could you imagine?
Yeah, and Michael Penix Jr. rides him for a touchdown. No. In my head, a realistic, really bad result for us would be we go up into Seattle. All of our penalty problems, which, seem to be coming on and off. Right now, we seem to be in a decent place after coming off that Stanford game, but all of them come here. Our O-line is not clicking because of the heinous, loud, raucous environment of Seattle. Our secondary is...
They've had a third cup of coffee in the morning, and so therefore are slightly louder than their gray souls are typically capable of.
Hey.
Yeah. Are you a Husky fan or a Duck fan?
The army of tow trucks is in action. They've cleared all the carnage from the freeways, and so people are actually able to make it to the game.
The boats are having a great time.
They actually get off of the sailboats and into the stadium.
Yeah. And our secondary is a bit exposed, maybe, or maybe they just game plan enough where they get a quick lead. I don't imagine this in any way being a
but they
70
can't sit on that
21.
lead because they can't run.
Yeah, I know. Well, I'm trying to imagine what is the actual worst realistic outcome in which we lose this game.
Again, there's multiple definitions of worse, but
Yes.
but that's sort of the reason why, spoiler alert, I'll pick Oregon in this game is that Oregon's a more complete team, right? They have a multi-dimensional offense. They have a their defense is can do multiple things. They can rush the passer. They can play in coverage. They can stop, stuff the run. They can, they prevent explosive runs. Whereas, Washington tends to be a team that, is pretty one-dimensional, right? Like for Washington to win the game, Washington's wins all look the same, right? Like they hit explosive passes because their passing game between the 20s is absolutely lethal. But then that's it. That's the tool that they have in the drawer. Their horizontal passing game is not that great. They were able to ride it to a win against Arizona, but that's just because Arizona's defensive talent wasn't able to get to the check down fast enough to keep that guy from gaining 6 yards, and therefore Washington would eventually march down the field. Oregon is capable of keeping those gains from being 6 yards. Instead they'll be more be more like 2 yards, and it sort of changes the calculus, right? Because Oregon's defense is what I'm saying is that Oregon's defense is sort of multi-dimensional in that way.
Yeah.
And Washington can't run the ball, at all, Washington's defense, they're having difficulty rushing the passer this year. They're pretty good at preventing explosive plays, but they'll let you have efficiency plays all day long. They're better in coverage, but like I said, they're having difficulty, rushing the passer, et cetera. So it's they'll let you have efficiency drives, and they're just betting that you don't care for efficiency drives because you're probably going to be in the hole against their scary passing offense, and so teams sort of give that up. But if you're able to keep up with them in terms of scoring, hey, they've got a roll. In other words, Washington is just less of a complete team than Oregon is, and so therefore I just sort of think the smart money is always on the more complete team. That's not really an Oregon Washington team. That's just always, if you give me two teams that of roughly equal total capabilities, but one is a multi-dimensional team and one is a more one-dimensional team, give me the multi-dimensional team. The one-dimensional team can always win the game. It's just that they have one way of winning the game. Things got to go that one way, for that to win the game. And so when you ask me, Hith, what's the worst case scenario for the Ducks? I'm there's no range of possibilities. There's only one. I can't answer that question because there's only one. There's it's Penix hits a million passes, for 30 yards, and so they score a bunch of points, and Oregon doesn't score as many points. That's it. There's only one answer to that question, Adam.
The sure tackling of Oregon's secondary and Oregon's defense in general is what has kind of calmed me down going into this, not thinking that we're going to be completely blown out. Because Washington against Arizona, Arizona kind of did force them to go for those kind of check downs, quicker things, and then they would, like you said, miss a bunch of tackles, or just the guy would blow through them or something like that. And no one's really done that to Oregon. And when we were playing, if this was in Autzen, it's against Colorado, different levels of talent. But Colorado was kind of forced to do that too, and it just never looked like that was ever going to be a winning strategy against this Oregon team.
Right. The difference between Colorado and Washington's passing game is that Colorado's quarterback and Colorado's deep passing game, Colorado's quarterback wants to hold the ball for a really long time, and their deep passing game is based on holding the ball, finding that pass. And Washington, they really want to get the ball out of the quarterback's hands pretty quick. Last year it was a really high percentage of throws that was out of the quarterback's hands within 2 seconds. This year it's come down quite a bit, although a lot of that is just because the sample size the sample has changed, because so much of it is the Arizona game, because all the rest of their games have gone into garbage time so fast. Anyway, they're down to something I'm sorry, I don't have the number right in front of me. It's something like 64% of their passes are out of the quarterback's hands within 2 seconds of the snap.
Wow.
Which is, but it's sort of it's the nature of Kalen DeBoer's passing system, which I've been watching for 4 years now, because I started watching his Fresno team in 2020, right? Because Oregon opened with them in 2021. And I've got like 4 years, or like, I mean, less than that, because the 2020 season was shortened and I've only got 5 games in 2023. So whatever that works out to, that many games on Kalen DeBoer's passing system. And like, I can't quite crack it, in terms of like what the pass is going to be based on pre-snap reads, but it is based on pre-snap reads. It's why they do so many, man in motion things. They're creating, that's what they're constantly setting a man in motion pre-snap. And what they're doing is revealing man versus zone coverage, and B, they're begging for zone because they really just shred zone coverage. And then C, based on that, they're identifying where your hole in coverage is going to be, and then they're just nailing you with it, on the pre-snap read. And this is different. Like, please, anybody who's listening to this, do not read this as me saying I think that Michael Penix is a bad quarterback. I do not think that, not in the slightest. But I am saying that, like, the whole brilliance of Kalen DeBoer's passing system is that it lets the quarterback know where the throw is before the ball is even snapped, and so therefore he's able to get rid of the ball before the pass rush is even an issue. Which is really good news for Washington because their offensive line is just terrible. It's just it means that it doesn't matter. Like the pass rush, and so here, that's the other real benefit that Washington get, is that so many defensive coaches watch Washington's film and they see that like the offensive line just can't protect. Like, they really can't. Like, anybody who watches Washington film and thinks that they're seeing a good offensive line because like the sack numbers are low, like, you really need to get your head examined. Like, it's just bad. Like, it's really bad, man.
And also examine the teams they've played this season.
Well,
too,
I mean, no, man, that's not even a good argument, Adam, because like even the bad teams that they've played have been getting good pressure on them. It's just that the pressure is irrelevant because, number one, what I said, the ball's out of the quarterback's hands so fast. And number two, Penix is just absolutely incredible. He's one of the most remarkable quarterbacks I've ever seen, in that he DGAF about a dude who's about to annihilate him. It is, I am so amazed by that guy in his, like, a guy is about a microsecond from blowing him, or a guy will have his hand on him and he is still in excellent throwing form, throwing an excellent, deep, accurate, downfield ball. I mean, it is like I could fill my entire article with clips of where a pass rusher like literally has his hand on him and he is still like, he does not panic, he doesn't try to scramble, he doesn't like go down. I mean, he will eventually wind up on his butt because that's what happens when a defensive tackle is sitting on top of him, but or is contacting him, but not before the ball is off. It's just absolutely amazing. Like, he's got no fear, and his form doesn't break down, or his accuracy doesn't break down.
And not only that, but he's paired with like an OC and a coach that are also willing to be like, hey, if the deep man is open and there's a possibility, if you think you can
do it,
nail a perfect pass, then they don't go for it. Man.
Yeah, they don't alter the system. They don't be like, that's number. There's another part, but I'll back you up. You're totally right. They don't act. Some offensive coordinators are just like, oh man, we are giving up so much pressure. We better abandon the pass. We better do some different things. Not these guys. They're like, nope, this is working. I believe in you. Michael, go for it. And they do over and over and over. So like, good for them. And then the other thing is they've got like 3 wide receivers who are just excellent, and if you go to man, which is the right way to beat them, you should play them in man. But like, most teams do not have the ponies to keep up with them in man and snap after snap after snap. It's actually, most teams can handle doing man against them. In fact, my article is going to be filled with clips about like, here's even like a low-level G5 team with all 5 of their receiving targets being covered in man for 3 seconds, and therefore Penix has to get rid of the ball. Like, you can do it, but it's like, can you do that for 70 snaps? Because if you fall down once, he's going to find it and, 50-yard pass, touchdown, so that's it, that's really hard, it's really hard.
Yeah. I mean, obviously keep your eyes on this feed because we will be diving deeper into this team, deeper into this roster before the big game. But as of right now, I think we should move on to the rest of the Pac-12.
Yeah, I
But
feel zero worry.
even before that, Aaron, I just want to, because I don't really know where I'm going to jam this piece of information that you don't have in, and it's not really relevant to anything we're talking about, but I wanted to tell you. So, Miami, they're playing Georgia Tech, right?
Okay.
And Mario Cristobal, pretty ugly game in general, but they are up. They can win the freaking game. I think they're around like under 40 seconds or something like that. Like enough time where if they need the ball, they win the game. The other Georgia Tech is out of timeouts.
Sure.
If they need the ball, they win the game. Instead, they
hold
run
on.
the ball. Well, am I
You
wrong?
need to clarify because Aaron is imagining something.
Yeah.
What?
He's imagining that you take a knee to the ball and try to punt it with your knee.
Oh,
No,
yeah.
you knee. You just
You
take
get-
a
you
knee on
get
the
it.
field
Okay.
and you let the clock run out.
Oh, did I
Okay, yeah.
underestimate Aaron?
You did. Okay. Everyone gets one with that.
He's
But-
fallen. He's fallen for my ploy. The man thinks I'm an idiot. Now I strike.
Yeah. So literally all he has to do is knee the ball, run out the clock, you win the game. Instead, they elect to run, right? Which is in theory, once he's tackled, you're still going to run out the
fine.
clock and you're still going to win the game. The only thing he needed not do is fumble. Well, the dude fumbles, and that is rare. It is kind of crazy that he fumbled, but that's what you
everything
need.
that happens in this is crazy.
Wow.
And then so Georgia Tech now has the ball. They're still hovering around, I think 40, 30-yard line. So they still got not much time, and they have to get a touchdown to win.
Right.
Somehow, Georgia Tech's receivers, which this isn't a team fully loaded with talent or anything,
No.
get behind all of Miami's secondary. The dude, quarterback, rolls out, boom, passes it, touchdown pass, final seconds of the game, boom. Mario Cristobal loses. Truly, the discussion has opened. This is one of the worst botched coaching, last second losses in our wonderful college football history. I mean, obviously there's a million. There's only so many ahead of it in the history of the entire
This
sport.
is what
where
happens.
It's yeah.
This is what happens.
Anyways, I needed to pepper that in somewhere. We don't have much time. We should
Well,
get
it's
to
relevant
the
because there's a similar thing that happened to Oregon
Not
against
exactly
Stanford
the
in
same.
2018.
People
It's
have
not
been
exactly the same.
comparing
and
it a bit too much.
It drives everybody crazy because in the Georgia Tech game, it's a series of very low probability events has to happen in order for Miami to lose, but it's a 0 probability event of them losing if they just take a knee. And so the difference between a low probability event and a 0 probability event is infinite. Mm-hmm. So that, that's what causes people to lose their mind. But as an analyst, what causes me to lose my mind is that the end of games are immaterial. The thing that's material is that they were within striking distance of Georgia Tech, a team that they have a massive talent advantage versus, and Georgia Tech got blown out the week before by Bowling Green, a team that just got blanked by I forget, Houston or some other team that's not very good. Yeah, that's the, if you want to look for evidence of Mario Cristobal, having a rough time at Miami, the fact that the game was close enough to Miami of Ohio. Oh, that's funny. Miami of Ohio was
They
the team
beat
that
them.
just blanked. No, Miami of Ohio blanked Georgia Tech.
That's right.
Miami of
Miami
Ohio
played
blanked
Miami of
Bowling
Ohio
Green.
week 1,
Bowling
right?
Green destroyed Georgia Tech.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, just, it's ridiculous.
Was there some kind of end game if the running back was to, gain 3 yards, would that set some kind of precedent for
If
the
he would have been
yards?
tackled, if the play would have ended.
No, actually, Aaron is onto something here. The running back had 99 yards. He had just come back from a gruesome injury, and he had 99 yards in the game. And so Cristobal was apparently trying to get him to 100 because
Sure.
that's a number.
Worth it, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, and like I said, it's a low probability of the sequence of events that had to happen is so low probability it's almost not worth worrying about. It's just that it was versus a 0 probability event,
Yeah.
you know, and the difference
All right.
between low and 0 is infinite. Anyway,
But who knows? You take a knee, something weird happens, and the ball still pops out because that's what it was destined to do.
That's barely any. We really got to get moving,
All right.
though.
All right,
I just
come on,
had
let's
to bring
get
it
out of
up.
here. Bye.
Okay. Here we go. The great segment of them all that I
I
always
love
forget
that.
to pull
Thanks
up.
for bringing it up.
Oh, yeah, it's fun. Of course.
The pigs.
The Great Pick'em Challenge, everybody. So, starting off, we had a bunch of bye weeks. This bye week will come to Arizona State. Arizona State, they did, in fact, lose again. I was rallying for them. I'm always rallying for them, but who the hell did they play? I can't even remember.
Colorado.
Oh,
you go.
yeah. This was a close game.
It was
Right.
actually, if it weren't for the fact that the game of the century was on for their hated territorial cup rivals.
Yeah, no joke.
Like,
We'll get
this
into that.
would have been the game of the week. Like,
Yeah. Because Arizona, like Scattaboo again, who took a bunch of damage in this, and Bourget was out there, and he was someone that, I mean, he looked more
I
sure
mean, he
than
was the
fine
leading
out there.
passer in the game.
Yeah.
He outpassed Shadur Sanders.
Yeah, Shadur, like Colorado had to rally. They flexed on the crowd, which is good heel move, but also like, dude, you're playing against Arizona State. And actually, I was really impressed with like Arizona State's crowd compared to like, I don't know, the UCLA Wazoo game, which was like huge implications, big time game, nobody in the stands compared to Arizona State versus Colorado, which, you know, again,
definitely. If you want to dunk on any crowd in the Pac-12, it should definitely be UCLA's crowd. Like,
it's pretty pathetic, honestly, compared to, like, you know, again, Dion factor a little bit here, but no, also ASU has some good ass fans, man. Like, I wanted them to win. I didn't pick them to win, but I was really rooting for them. But now they got a bye week to try to plan a way to win a Pac-12 game. That's the goal. Hopefully they play Stanford, I do believe, this season. That's going to be the game of the century. God, I hope they do, anyways.
I believe they do, yeah.
You hope so. Now we'll talk about the real games here. Colorado coming off of that win, smelling bowl eligibility. They're going against Stanford. Stanford ain't a good team. They just ain't. I mean, they're coming off a bye week, so there is that. Friday, 7 p.m. ESPN. This is a Friday game. Colorado will desperately want to win.
Oh, no, they don't. ASU and Stanford don't play.
They don't? That is
what a
so
pity.
It's kind of fun that both could go undefeated in Pac-12 play.
That's right. That's why they could both go unwin-feated.
They should make them play if they do that. That would be fun. Just to
at
determine
like the
truly.
same time as the Pac-12 championship.
Yeah.
The no one can be winless bowl.
Exactly. And fortunately, they've both won a game, which was pretty close, honestly, for ASU. Because otherwise, you know, we got to preserve the 0-12 Washington record. So
yeah, it's vital.
This one, you imagine Stanford's going to win. You imagine
team,
Colorado's
every team
gonna
in the
win.
Pac-12 has won a game, so there's no risk to
we are
to
absolutely
that.
safe.
The Pac-12 will go to its demise with the University of Washington being the last team to go winless.
It's beautiful.
Oh, wow.
Here,
I love
though,
it.
Stanford, you know, like, if Stanford's going to pull one of those Stanford upset moments, this would be a good time for it to do it, because Colorado obviously is its bark is a lot worse than its bite in reality when you look at its line play. So Stanford could upset here.
Really?
But Colorado is a better team because Stanford is that bad of a team. Who do you got, Aaron?
Oh, I'm going with Colorado for sure.
Of course you are. I think you're going out with them the rest of the
I mean,
season.
I probably might. I like the idea of them, and I don't even get advertised them.
You know what? Purely because I'm gonna try to catch up with Hythloday, and so I'm gonna need to win some of these, and I don't know what he's choosing, but I will go with Stanford. Purely not because of my confidence with Stanford, but because I think they gotta win a Pac-12 game. This is unfortunately in Boulder, too. I think that environment's going to be pretty crazy because fans are going to be like, oh, we can maybe watch Colorado win. That would be nice. So I think even I'm going against my brain here, and I'm going with my gut. And I'm going with Stanford, even though it's probably not going to happen. But it's going to happen eventually, and I'm going to need to get some
sounds like
upsets.
your gut's full of shit.
Well, it's early in the morning. I've had a lot of coffee. Hythloday, who are you going with on this one?
I got Colorado.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Last week I said the only thing that gave me pause about picking Colorado over ASU was the fact that the game was played at home for ASU, and that both of those teams were much stronger at home than on the road, and I think that I think that played out. I think that was a big factor in why ASU kept it as close as they did against Colorado. Actually, the game was interesting to watch because Arizona State led for much of it, but that was true largely because Kenny Dillingham came out with a really good scripted first drive, and then Colorado had a hard time getting it going. But then as soon as they did, it was I forget what it was, but they basically scored the last 14 points of the game. It was just Colorado was a better team. They just needed some time, to get going. And I really sort of feel like that was the crowd. The crowd had a lot to do with that. And now that that's sort of reversed, and it's Colorado gets to play at home. I don't. Yeah, that factor that was sort of holding them back, and then look at the way that Colorado played, at home versus, look at the massive comeback they had against Colorado State, and look at the massive comeback they had against USC, they just feed off of their crowd so much.
Yeah.
I know how much a lazy commentator I sound because so many lazy commentators, do sound like that, and but I'm just saying that on paper, Colorado is a much better team than Stanford is, and to the extent that you can explain them, underperforming in certain games, like the crowd or lack of crowd, I think is all you need to explain that factor. It's not a factor in this game, so I've got no compunction. Give me Colorado.
It's also what are you betting on with Stanford?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, if I had to bet on something, it would be I think that Stanford's cornerbacks in their run game, will give Colorado some trouble. But I don't think that's enough. I think I think that Colorado's edges will actually be more than adequate to get to Stanford's passer, and so I think their passer is going to be under fire. I think it's whoever Stanford selects for their quarterback, which is a fraught question, is going to be under fire all day. And I think that that Colorado has enough passing weapons to attack against the middle of the field, where Stanford is very vulnerable. So I don't really think that they're going to have any difficulty, putting up points against them.
Fair enough.
And also, Hythloday, I just want you to know, I don't think anyone would ever say you're lazy. So,
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, that's probably true.
You get those negative thoughts out of your head, sir.
You should read my Twitter feed.
Oh my god,
quite a few.
Oh my god.
Yeah. I just, I can't go to that website because I don't want to help the stock value.
Fair enough. Oh, don't worry. That's plummeting. Number 16, Utah. Still ranked. That's nice to see. Number 16, Utah versus Cal. Cal, once again, not a good team. Saturday, 12 p.m., Pac-12.
Here's the problem.
Well, what's that?
No matter what I pick for Utah, they will always do the opposite, or that is how it's happened so far this season. So you're putting me in a pickle here because I have to pick Utah. But it just seems like if I don't pick them, if you know what I mean, it seems like I'm picking them so they're going to lose to Cal.
Even without Cam Rising, who probably, because even if he was healthy, At this point, like if I'm Kyle Whittingham, I'm like, well, let's see where we're at. I don't know if we need to start you. Let's see where we're at the half. Like, this is Cal after all. Like, obviously you don't want to lose, but I don't know if Cal is good at anything when it comes to football. So that's why I'm going with Utah. Can you tell me anything Cal is good at, Hythloday?
Well, okay. This sort of necessitates talking about the Cal-Oregon State game last week, because Utah was on a bye last week. That game was okay. So the relevant fact that happened last week is that Cal started out a new quarterback, who's Fernando Mendoza, a 2-star, whose only offers were from Penn and Yale. And Rob Wong took great pains to let me know when we interviewed him over the summer is in fact on scholarship for Cal. I asserted he was a walk-on and like came down on me like a ton of bricks. No, he was on scholarship. And dude put up like 32 points in 3 quarters on Oregon State's defense. And like I sort of have been maintaining like all off season and all of this season, like Oregon State's defense actually sucks. Like, and they've just been playing terrible teams, and they just lost everybody off of last year's good defense, who were a bunch of like 6th year seniors who like finally had to graduate. And like, and so like Cal, who does nothing against nobody, finally puts up a bunch of points behind a 2-star, quarterback. Is that because their 2-star quarterback is actually a diamond in the rough and is like actually secretly a great quarterback? Or was this just the first time Oregon State played any offense that, had a pulse, at all? Well, I sort of suspect, the latter, that Cal's offense still just kind of sucks and Oregon State's defense still just really sucks. And but Oregon State's probably sucky defense also shut down Utah's definitely sucky offense.
Yes.
So what's going to happen when Cal plays Utah, right? So it's like basically my prediction for the Cal versus Utah game is like a 0-0 tie.
Yeah.
So like I don't know where Vegas is getting the line of like Utah by 13.5. Like I might think of 13.5 as like the over under for this game. I don't think anybody's going to score any points in this game at all, because I think that Utah unlike Oregon State, I think that Utah actually has a defense. And like Cal is sort of this. I don't think their defense is good, but I think it's like a bunch of like it's like. Ugh. But then Oregon State on the other hand dropped a 50 burger on them, and I don't really think Oregon State's offense is very good. Like Cal's defense made the hodgepodge of DJ Uiagalelei, who I don't think is a very good quarterback, and the true freshman Aiden Childs, who's playing like every third drive, look like they were tissue paper. So like I don't really think much of like Cal's defense. So like. Is Cal's nothing of a defense gonna be able to stop? Is like the movable object of Cal's defense gonna put up any resistance to the resistible force that is Utah's nothing offense? Like, dude, this game is potentially just gonna be. It could go in so many different directions, like none good. Like these two teams just it might be a totally unwatchable mess, or it might be like the most like Pac-12 chaos nonsense you've ever seen. Like, I don't know, like this might be the most like watchable game just for like popcorn reasons. Like, what is this?
Cal does a 14-0 lead to start, but then 2 pick sixes gets Utah to tie it, and then a safety to win.
Yeah, or like this game is like nothing but pick sixes. Just like the game is entirely defensive scores, or like it's 6-4 all safeties, or like some.
So you going with the home
like
team in Salt Lake City?
Yeah. Look, I'm picking Utah. The game is played in Rice Eccles. That's the only data point that is necessary. I think both of these teams, for different reasons, Cal because Justin Wilcox is a terrible roster manager, and Utah because they're injured to hell. Just suck out loud this season, and so like who knows what happens when two teams that suck out loud play, but when I'm faced with two teams that I don't know the answer to, I go with the home team, and Utah's got like one of the biggest home field advantages in college football, so give me the home team.
There you go.
Oh well, shit, I didn't get to pick.
Yeah, you said Utah.
No,
you
I
not?
only said every time
Well,
I
you
go
make
with
your
them, they
picks
do the
first,
opposite.
motherfucker. So who do you got?
Cal.
Okay, that's
Thank
wrong.
you.
But
I
all right.
honestly would not I wouldn't fall out of my chair shocked if Cal won this game. Like just
Utah's
because like
offense
any
has been-
wacky things could happen,
Utah's offense has been nuts. This one,
Because
of course, number
guess
7.
what? We've already established a circle of suck in the Pac-12, right? Because Utah beat UCLA, which just beat Wazoo, which beat Oregon State, which beat Utah. And like the question is like, does that mean all 4 of those teams are real good, or does that mean all 4 of those teams are real bad? I'm kind of inclined to thinking like all 4 of those teams are really kind of incomplete and kind of like herky-jerky. Like they've got like some good things going on, but like their lines aren't very good. And so like any given, the result is like any given team can beat any other in like the not like top couple of teams of the Pac-12 that here, this is the line that won't surprise you in any given year of the Pac-12. Any team can beat any other team on any Saturday.
There we go.
So, like, guess what? Cal and Utah are any team. So any outcome could occur.
Well, hopefully not in this one. Number 7, Washington at number 8, Oregon, Saturday, 12:30 p.m. ABC game day. Aaron, where do your allegiances lie? Right here. Who's winning?
I thought the game was at Husky Stadium.
It is.
Washington at
Oops.
Ducks?
I hit the wrong thing. I said it's at Eugene. Is this mistake here enough to
You brought down the
jinx
game.
us?
There it goes. Well, obviously it's the Ducks all day, baby doll.
You're going with the Ducks. I'm trying to think if this is a value pick for me. Could I go with the Huskies just simply to catch up? To catch up. I'm trying to
what
think.
my pick is already, and you're trying to catch me.
Exactly. You're going with Oregon. I will. I'll do this just so if we lose, I can have some sense of being happy, and sense of being right. I'll go with UW.
Okay.
My favorite team.
Here's the deal. If Washington loses, you lose 3 points.
What? No. I don't want to do that.
No.
That's not fair. That's not fair. I'm already
cool.
taking
It's a penalty for going against your own team. It's ridiculous.
I'm already going on a limb here. You should want me to do this. You want to catch up to me if you're sure of Oregon. So we'll skip right ahead to that. We've already talked to number 19 Wazoo versus Arizona, Saturday 4 p.m. Pac-12 Network. Wazoo is coming off a honestly not as close loss against UCLA as it looks. It was pretty. The offense was just stuffed.
I don't
in
know
my
about
opinion.
that. Wazoo was actually moving the ball pretty well, but then they kept turning the ball over, and
Yes,
then
that is
they
true.
started sucking. It was actually kind of weird watching that game. Anyway, I mean, you're right that by the second half of that game, like UCLA's defense had them straight up shut down. But the first half was crazy in that Wazoo was really moving the ball well, but then UCLA would poke the ball out.
Well, and there was that 14-point swing where it was like UCLA was about to, was like knocking on the end
that
zone.
also is true.
And then a pick six. And then suddenly it was, did Washington State have the lead at halftime because of that?
I can't
It was
remember.
a lot of missed opportunities. I mean, UCLA
which is why I say
great.
like incomplete teams,
Yeah, exactly. And in front of nobody. Maybe if there was a better home field advantage, but there was no fans there. Versus Arizona, which Aaron, you said Arizona was going to beat top 10 USC
Oh my God.
in the Coliseum, and it nearly goddamn happened.
Oh, it didn't happen.
Overtime.
Whenever I looked, it was tied or some shit.
Well,
They
you
opened
stopped
up the
watching,
game
buddy.
17-0.
Yeah, they led
Wow.
17-0. USC rallied back.
I was just like I was ready to convert to Schroederism. I was like, I don't know what garments you have to wear for that, but I was ready to buy them. Like
Noah Fafita
Just corduroy.
engineered it. Yeah, it was very fun to watch. Very some stupid coaching in that one as well. Some bad special teams plays.
there was a lot of stupid coaching on both sides of that game.
Yeah. Caleb Williams ends up just doing crazy Caleb Williams. Wakes up.
Yeah.
and then just decides to win the game. Arizona nearly freaking had it. Are you back in the Wildcats again, or are you going with the other Cats, the Cougars?
I feel like at this point it's probably smartest to go with the ranked team in this scenario. I don't see Arizona being able to muster a whole lot of life after whatever has been going on. So Washington State, Cougars.
Okay. Well, they are the home team. We all know the Palouse is a pretty gnarly place to play.
Also, I just want to bring up, it doesn't look like a cougar head. It looks like a snail.
I can kind of. I mean, it looks like a cougar head to me, but I get what you mean, snail wise.
It looks like Battle Cat from He-Man.
Yes, it does.
Because like the W looks like armor, you know.
I'm
That's
not
the shell.
sure. I don't think Arizona's good enough. Jaden Delora may actually be playing for this next one too. I don't think that Arizona's good enough to win in.
I don't know
this
that that's an
environment.
advantage.
I know. Me too. Like, I would be more confident in them. I like Noah Fifita more. I would have more confidence in them if he was starting instead of just the wild card, wildcat that is Jaden Delora. On the road, Wazoo's had like a good enough defense that I do think they're going to win, but I think this will be really close. I do think this is going to be a close one, but I will go with the Cougs on this one. How about you, Hiff?
I'm going to go with the Cougs as well, basically for the reasons that you stated. I do think it's interesting the defense that Johnny Nansen for Arizona has trotted out the last two games, where they basically play 7 defensive backs, like against the last two teams that they played, Washington and USC, which are pretty pass-heavy teams. Like, he's probably going to do it a third time in a row against Wazoo, which is also like a pretty pass-heavy team, and it's probably going to work. UCLA completely shut down, the remnants of Wazoo's run game without a whole lot of effort and just, rushing 3, at them, because Wazoo's O-line kind of stinks. So, I don't think they're really going to pay the price for playing a light box. I am also predicting a low-scoring game, or a tighter game, in this one. It's just like I'm not a big believer in Arizona's offense this year, and I also think that their offensive line, the big coup for Arizona offensively was bringing back their good left tackle Jordan Morgan after he got hurt in last year, and then he was projected to go to the NFL, but then he announced that he was going to come back and play for Arizona this year, and then he sort of stunk it up on the field. And I don't know if he's he just never recovered from his injury, or he's just regressed, or what the deal is, but he has been getting just wrecked every game that I've watched him. And if I've had to watch Arizona in a bunch of games, it's just been a weird artifact of Arizona plays a bunch of teams that Oregon's going to play. The poor guy, and Wazoo's big defensive strength is their edges. And I just think that Wazoo's just going to eat Arizona's offensive line alive, and so that's going to keep their score low. And so I think it's actually going to weirdly be a low score. Everybody's predicting is a high scoring game. It's oh man, these offenses, but I actually think it's going to be a low scoring game, and give me the home team in a low scoring game.
Yeah. I'm not a big fan of Cam Ward much either, honestly.
Seems like this week.
Go ahead, Aaron.
Oh, I was just going to say, it seems like this week in the Pac-12, it's going to be a lot of low-scoring games. It'll be a boring week in the Pac-12.
I can think of one that'll probably be a little higher scoring. Cam Ward's the interesting one. I got to, after the Washington game, I got to do Wazoo next. I was skeptical of him last year. He started out the season, pretty hot, and a lot of people were like, Cam Ward fixed all his issues, and I was watching his tape, and I'm like, I'm not really sure that's true. I think Oregon State just has a bad defense. And then UCLA dismantled him, this last weekend, and I'm sort of like, there was one film reviewer who never regained faith.
I think there's a lot of people that are just looking at Wazoo's scores at the end of these games and just assuming that he's taking over and leading them down these awesome epic drives, and I'm not really seeing it.
I think there are a lot of box score analysts out there.
That is very true. Now the next one, this is a big one, and it involves a non-Pac-12 school, the
Peacock.
Fighting Irish. That's right. It's
almost
on
all
NBC
of these
Peacock.
are non-Pac-12 schools.
Yeah, nowadays, unfortunately. Here we go. Notre Dame. Now, they got a lot of hype early on by I think they played Air Force or Army week 0 or week 1, and a lot of people, they dismantled that team and they got really excited about that. Since then, they've had a couple of big marquee games. They lost to Ohio State. That was a very close one.
If only they remembered how many players they were allowed to field on defense.
That's right. 2 different plays at the very end. They only had 10 players out there, which is sad. They beat Duke, a good Duke team that beat Clemson, but that was a close game. And they just lost to Lawville, 33-20. So they have been humbled a bit here. Other than that, though, a lot of they've put up good offense against some bad teams, which makes me think they could score a bunch on this USC team. Because this team
if you don't
sucks.
just quit football,
Exactly. Especially it's whatever you want to do against this USC defense, you can probably do it if you're a halfway decent team. Notre Dame's got some talent on the line. I think they can just run through USC. And it's going to come down to, every single week, can Caleb Williams just go God mode on their ass? He probably can. Is that enough to win? I don't know. This is definitely the best team USC has played all season.
Huh.
It's on the road to date. Yeah. It's on the road. So that I do think that will matter a lot.
Oh, I might have to go with Notre Dame on this one.
This is a tough one, man. This is really tough. I'm not gonna lie. I haven't watched many. I've watched highlights of Notre Dame games.
Sure.
But I haven't watched full. Tuned in because I'm watching Pac-12. I watched a lot of USC though, and they've been begging for a loss. I mean, they 3 overtimes with Arizona. They nearly lose to Colorado by just completely letting them score on their number 1 defense. It's a close game against Arizona State on the road. Even in the games that are blowouts, a lot of them, they're still allowing a lot of points. I just can't keep happening. Eventually, it has to end. I think this is where it ends. I think USC loses this game, and I think they get knocked down to, suddenly they're, number 18, number 20 in the poll. Because I think people are, catching on to them, too. I do think they're going to lose to the Fighting Irish here. Just because they kind of suck. I mean, they could still beat us in Eugene because, again, their offense is good. They got a great player. But I'm more afraid of Washington, certainly, than USC because they got so many obvious flaws. And Hythloday, thanks to you, anyone who's listening to you knows this as well, is that USC, they have a great offense because they got a good offense because they have some great skill players, and they've got a Heisman-worthy, Heisman-winning quarterback. But that O-line is going to make it so you can disrupt this offense. You can, get, Caleb Williams is going to have to do next-level shit to really beat you. It seems like if you got a decent team. And I think that the line play is going to doom USC in this one, so I'm going with the Irish.
If you're asking me to compare USC and Washington, they sort of concern me in different ways. And also, one's a road game and one's a home game. One is a multi-dimensional offense, and one is a very one-dimensional offense. Their defenses are of different caliber. They're pretty apples and oranges teams. Both of them. I don't really believe in their offensive lines. Washington's is totally god awful. I think that USC's is actually better, but on the other hand, USC relies on their offensive line a lot more than Washington does. So
true.
It's one is worse, but it matters less. Man. I wasn't really prepared to answer that question. I would have to give that a whole lot of thought.
Oh, no worries.
So I'm gonna punt on that question. Plus, I'm done with my film study on Washington. I'm not done with my film study on USC. I barely even started. So I don't know. In terms of the general hey, just looking at the trajectory of USC where they're playing closer games than they ought to against teams that don't have nearly the same amount of talent that they do, that's true, and that Notre Dame is a team that's much closer to them in terms of talent. So hey, if I'm just playing the trajectory here, hey, they're, a team that has comparable talent ought to be able to push over the finish line. That seems pretty logical. On the advanced metrics, several different advanced metrics have Notre Dame winning at 60-70%. Other ones think the game is basically a tie. At any rate, Notre Dame is the home team. Not that really matters. South Bend is tends to be fairly quiet. But it's still the case that the team that has to get up and travel tends to play at about a 2-point disadvantage of their normal output. Which may be the deciding factor in the game. It was the deciding factor last game. It's also the case that Notre Dame has pretty good film students. They clearly you can tell that from the way that they played Louisville.
Yeah, George Lucas.
That was USC.
I thought that's what you said. Sorry. I'll edit that out. No one will hear it. Don't worry.
And Kathleen Kennedy is also a USC alum.
Yeah, that's right.
Everybody who's associated with USC is either a fraud or criminal or ruined Star Wars. I think Notre Dame is set up to win this game just from the 35,000 foot view, but on the other hand, Notre Dame just keeps botching games and USC keeps winning them. So give me USC.
Oh, wow. There we go. I like that.
I think Notre Dame's a loser program. I'm sorry.
I love it.
It's I know how non-technical that sounds, but Notre Dame just this year, they don't win games like this. They lose games like this.
Yeah.
And USC wins games like they play them close, and you're cursing at your screen for them, but then they win them. That's what's going to happen.
You just pissed off our over 60 fan base so hard. I think they turned off their old school radio listening to this game. And of course, in true Quacktual fashion, I've saved one of the more interesting games for the very end when we have the least amount of time. Number 15, Oregon State versus number 18, UCLA. Actually, I think this is going to be ugly as hell. UCLA, they have at least a decent to good, maybe great, but decent to good defense. They got a freshman QB who's talented but making mistakes. Number 15, Oregon State, coming off DJU's maybe his best game of his career, but it was against Cal. Keep that in mind. This is in Corvallis, Saturday, 5 p.m. Fox. I don't know if Aaron can hear me out in the ether, but which one do I feel like is going to win this one? Well, Aaron, you're here. Who are you going to choose here?
Oh,
the Beavs, the Bruins?
There's something about Oregon State I just don't like. Ooh. And there's something about UCLA that just grinds my gears, and I can't trust them for shit. So I'll just have to say I think I'll go with Oregon State.
Now you sound like a true Oregon fan. All that answer I really respected, actually. This is a tough one. I am starting to believe in UCLA's defense a little bit. I'm assuming it'll travel to Corvallis, so I think this game will at least be close because I think DJU will be rattled. And so maybe if you're able to stop Oregon State's run game, maybe that throws everything into just a gunky, nasty game. And then it comes down to Dante Moore. Can he play a mistake-free game? Can he play the game of his career right now? This would definitely be a huge one. I'm gonna, in order to be different from Aaron and to have a little bit of fun, I think the Bruins are winning this one on the road. I think it'll have to be ugly if they win, because their offense hasn't exactly been humming, surprisingly, under Chip Kelly, but not surprisingly under Chip Kelly at UCLA. Some weird stuff going on there. I'll go with UCLA. Hythloday, you got to pick in this one?
Sure. I mean, first, I'll note, like, the advanced analytics on this one are, like, have it dead tied. Like, you know, every system, you know, with the exception of ESPN FBI, which loves Oregon State, I don't know why, you know, thinks this, you know, this is going to be a dead tie. My charting system has it as a dead tie. You know, I would give a slight edge to Oregon State on being a home field, and like Reser Stadium loves, you know, Beavs. I sort of think that both of these teams are a little bit, you know, fraudulent, you know, as I talked about with sort of the circle of suck, you know, issue. Like, I think they're both pretty incomplete teams, you know. You know what is going to be the, you know, the tiebreaker for me, you know, and why I'm going to pick Oregon State is the David Woods theory. And you can advertise this one on Twitter. David Woods is high on UCLA. You know, that dude sells all of his stock on UCLA every single year. He gets down in the dumps on UCLA. He hates them. He affects, like, being a jaded, worldly UCLA fan who's not really a fan, until they have, like, one seemingly good performance, and then he's right back on the bandwagon. Like, he pulls all of his blue and gold shit out of the closet, you know, and he buys whatever, you know, narrative appears to be the case out of the last game, and he massively overreacts to it, and then he is always the next week just, like, smashed into a million pieces. And so this is the game that's going to happen to him in. You know, like, Oregon State is just going to smash him into a million pieces. They're going to score a million points on UCLA's supposedly good defense. And, like, yeah, that illusion is going to be shattered. Like, I get, you know, on the David Woods theory. Yeah.
Hythloday's vicious today.
He is. David Woods, podcast of champions. A friend of the show, I think. Yeah, maybe. Who knows? Way
like,
to go.
Making David
picks.
Woods tweets about how UCLA has a good defense look stupid is the most reliable clock in college football. So
that does
set your
sound
watch to
about
it.
Right. That does sound about right. We'll see how this ages. We'll see if David Woods has something to say about it. Here we go. So this is where we were last week. Adam had 33 points on the season. Aaron 30, Hythloday 38, really pulling away. Now, Hythloday and I made the exact same pick, so that's not going to change. However, so Aaron only got 2. Hythloday and I both got 3. There's only 4 games played, so we'll see. This is still a close one. We've varied in picks this one too.
But Aaron almost got us on the game of the week. I mean, it's so crazy.
That one should have been worth more points.
Sweating bullets, man. Like,
that one should have been worth more points. Maybe in the future here we'll do, like, if you're choosing like a, you know, by like, you know, 2 touchdown underdog, you get an extra point or something like that. Hythloday, Aaron, we've come to the point of the show where we're going to make some crazy predictions here, very specific predictions for this Oregon-Washington game. Now, what are we going to do here? Anyone got one popping off at the top of your head?
Yeah.
I can't really think of one.
Fog will be in play.
And
An announcer will, in fact, call it the Seattle Kush.
Ooh, I like this. Maybe if Robert Griffin III, if he's calling it, I bet you he will. Which I hope he is. That'd be fun. For me, I got a prediction here. At one point, a Duck will have an awesome touchdown. I don't know whether it's defensive or offensive. Hopefully, it's a pick 6. That'd be fun for old time's sake. And the cameras will cut to an Oregon Duck fan and a recently spurned Washington State Coug fan who is in the stands wearing full Wazoo gear, both giving each other high five over the score. I am predicting that. Hythloday, how about you? What you got?
You know how many times College Game Day has been to the University of Washington?
I
3.
want it. Is it 1? I'm guessing.
They have been there twice. This will be the 3rd time.
Okay.
Do you know what Washington's record is in those games?
I'm hoping
0
0.
and 2.
They are 0-2.
Hell yeah.
Blown out in both games. The first time by Oregon, the second time by USC.
Wow.
Dang.
So you think it'll be a blowout?
Make it 0-3.
Ooh, I love it. I love it. We're either going to be real happy next week. I can't even imagine the amount of hype we're going to have at the beginning of next episode if we win, or we're going to be bummed. Either way, tune into the Quack 12 podcast. Thank you so much, Hythloday, for your time. Addicted to Quack is where y'all need to go. Read the duct tape articles. Look at the duct tape articles. Share them. At Quack 12 podcast is where you can find us on Twitter. And we'll see y'all next week. Quack, quack.
Quack,
Go
quack.
Ducks. Beat the Huskies.